They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Nobody wants a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
They are pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of happy.
So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Rachel Zegler, she's an...
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And, you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
Disney thought they were reviving a classic. Instead, they walked straight into chaos. The live-action Snow White was supposed to be a magical reboot, a fresh take on the film that started it all. And when Rachel Zegler, the breakout star of West Side Story, was cast as the iconic princess, buzz exploded. People were intrigued. A rising talent with major pipes. It sounded like the perfect fit, but the fairy tale glow didn't last. Zegler started doing interviews. Instead of celebrating the original, she trashed it. She called the 1937 Snow White weird and outdated, making it sound like a relic better left in the attic. For millions who grew up loving that film, it wasn't just disappointing. It felt like an insult. And that attitude, it was only the spark. Because what came next would set off a wildfire of outrage.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Oh my God.
Criticism of the classic film was one thing, but then Rachel Zegler's old social posts came back to haunt her. She'd taken aim at a former US president, and more than that, she went after his supporters. The language? Blunt and bitter. She called them names, told them to go away, and said she hoped they'd never find peace. Even some who disagreed with that president thought she went too far. What started as frustration with her attitude now turned into outrage over her message, especially from families who didn't want politics mixed into a Disney movie. But that wasn't the breaking point, because when Zegler tried to defend herself, it only made things worse.
So she came out and took a large dump on half of the country, everyone who voted for Trump.
President Rachel Zegler also posted, F Trump kinds of posts on social media. She also said that she hoped that Trump supporters, quote, never know peace.
But you are not entitled to call for Trump supporters to be harmed. Like, you are actually not entitled to do that. And so let me just remind you, Rachel Zegler, of what the map looks like, just so you can understand when your Disney movie is coming out, how many people you are wishing harm upon. Like, this is America right now. I will love you through these 4 years as best I can. F Donald Trump. Yeah, totally stable thing for her to be posting, wishing harm upon Trump voters, wishing that we have no peace.
And they postponed the release of this thing, Ben, for a year because their star, Rachel Zegler, was so unlikable, told all Trump supporters that they could off, excuse me, but she did. That was just in November. They didn't even know she was going to do that one.
At first, some fans were still giving her the benefit of the doubt. But after those posts went viral, the mood shifted. People who were unsure about the live-action remake now had a reason to walk away. Supporting the film felt like supporting someone who'd openly attacked half the country. Zegler did issue an apology, but it didn't land. Critics called it robotic, forced, and more about saving face than making things right. And if you're into stories where Hollywood crashes headfirst into controversy, make sure to subscribe. We've got more wild behind-the-scenes fallout coming up. And Disney? They were just getting started with their big, modern twist on the story. But the direction they took next pushed even more fans over the edge.
And then she came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far. But it wasn't.
Disney promised a fresh take on Snow White, but fans didn't expect them to gut the entire story. Instead of gently updating the classic, they stripped out everything that made it feel like a fairy tale. In interviews, Zegler proudly said there'd be no love story this time. Snow White doesn't need a man, she said. That line made headlines, but not the kind Disney wanted. Sure, audiences are open to a stronger, more independent princess, but what they got felt cold. The warmth, the charm, the romance, gone. And without it, something felt off. And the biggest shift hadn't even hit yet. Because next, Disney made a call that erased one of the most iconic parts of the entire story.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
The movie is doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million, and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension. Racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphorical level? What does that mean?
Then came the deeper cuts. The prince, once a central figure, was reduced to a brief, awkward cameo. No chemistry, no story. Just there. The evil queen's jealousy, stripped of its emotional core. Her obsession with Snow White's beauty became a bland power grab with no depth. And the music? The beloved songs were gone. In their place, critics found awkward new tracks that felt more like lectures than melodies. Hollow, heavy-handed, and forgettable. Zegler even took a shot at the original prince, calling him a stalker. To longtime fans, that crossed a line. This wasn't just a rewrite. It felt like the film was mocking the story it came from. If you're still here, hit that like button. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us and really helps us grow. But if fans thought it couldn't get worse, what Disney did next triggered a whole new level of backlash.
And accusing Disney of inserting unnecessary feminism into classic fairy tales.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
So no prince or a different kind of prince? I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yep. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you?
Oh my God.
Are you Disney? I've read your book, and I have. It's a phenomenal book. You're losing generation of loyal viewers. When you think about Snow White, what is the premise? What is the story?
It's a love story. It's a love story.
It's a dream for a girl to grow up and a man falls in love.
I'm really upset that it's that the biggest theme here is that it's anti-men. She called him a stalker.
Right? Just as Disney ramped up marketing, the past came roaring back. Old posts from Rachel Zegler resurfaced again. This time, she was mocking Trump voters, calling them vile and wishing they'd never know peace. Even people who couldn't stand Trump thought she'd crossed a line. And when you're the face of a Disney princess movie, alienating millions of families is not a smart move. Disney's PR team scrambled to do damage control. They tried to soften her image, spin the narrative, calm the storm. But Zegler didn't back down. On talk shows, she stood firm, saying she was just being true to her values. The result? Instead of cooling things off, she poured gas on the fire. And just as tensions peaked, Disney made one more decision, this time about the dwarfs, that sent the internet into full meltdown.
Because you just can't close your mouth. You just can't be sane, even when you do open your mouth. I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film, but rather, she deserves to be in a padded cell.
Social media didn't move on. She hates half of us, one user posted, and expects us to pay for her movie? That tone echoed everywhere. Hashtags, boycott threads, and outrage spiraled. And when the film finally hit theaters, the impact showed. The opening weekend numbers were a disaster. But the controversy didn't stop with Zegler. The dwarfs, core to the original story, were next. After actor Peter Dinklage called them like an outdated stereotype, Disney panicked. Instead of modernizing or deepening the roles, they axed them completely. Leaks showed awkward CGI creatures. Then came rumors of diverse bandits replacing the iconic Seven. Reshoots followed, but it was too late. And the backlash? It hit harder than anyone at Disney expected.
Then they got even crazier and they decided that the dwarves in Snow White weren't woke enough, okay?
These are roles made for actors of my stature. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right.
Did the dwarfs make it or no?
Well, the CGI dwarfs did. Of course, that goes back to the original controversy where Peter Dinklage, a very talented little person actor, said, why are we doing that? We've hired a Latina actress to be Snow White. That's progressive. But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures.
Fans weren't the only ones upset. Critics called Disney out too. By scrapping the dwarfs entirely, the studio had erased 7 major roles that could have gone to little person actors. What was meant to be progressive now looked hypocritical. They claimed to stand for inclusion, but ended up sidelining the very group that needed representation. And the result? Gone was the charm, the personality, the whimsical magic the dwarfs brought. In their place, hollow, forgettable stand-ins that felt like afterthoughts. But the real damage wasn't just creative, because when the film finally opened, the numbers told a brutal story.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work. That many scripts that come down the pike.
Only 7 of them.
That has, and there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right to...
The 7 dwarfs of Snow White have, of course, all just disappeared, and now they're the 7 dysfunctional men, I assume.
I guess, what are we going to have? Like a lesbian, a trans person, someone in a wheelchair, someone of color? Like, I don't understand. Why weren't the dwarfs enough? But apparently they were too offensive because the most famous dwarf of all, Peter Dinklage, said something negative about it back in 2022, thus ruining the biggest acting roles the dwarfs had ever seen since the creation of Willy Wonka's Oompa Loompas back in the 1970s.
They couldn't have dwarves. Do you guys remember?
Yeah,
that?
because Peter Dinklage and all them were talking crap.
So originally they
Do you have
took
a picture of what the dwarves were supposed to look like?
I can find it, but it was an array. It was the DEI of
DEI
dwarves.
dwarves.
Yep. Well, they had to reshoot the film and use CGI dwarves. There you
So
go.
those guys didn't make it.
No.
That guy's 6'2".
And they were like, what? We just want to work. We're dwarves. So, ho, ho, ho.
Disney expected a hit. They banked on Snow White pulling $150 million in its opening weekend. Instead, it limped to just $43 million, a catastrophic number for a film that reportedly cost over $200 million. Audiences just didn't show up. Parents said they couldn't connect with the film's new tone. Teens called it cringe. Longtime fans felt like everything they loved had been tossed aside. By week 2, theaters were already pulling it. Analysts called it one of Disney's biggest box office flops in years. Online reviews were brutal. No magic, no heart, just a joyless attempt to fix something that wasn't broken. Even the merch flopped. Toys and dolls sat untouched on store shelves, a clear sign that fans had checked out. Inside Disney, panic set in. Rumors swirled about internal blame games and possible layoffs. Some pointed fingers at Zegler's online firestorms. Others blamed the script for ripping out the story's heart. Industry whispers even labeled Zegler box office poison, warning studios that her polarizing image might be too big a risk. Still watching? Then you're exactly who this channel's for. Subscribe now. We break down the stories Hollywood doesn't want you talking about. And despite her talent, many said her version of Snow White didn't feel like a heroine. She felt like a lecture. Confident, yes, but cold, detached, dismissing romance and classic charm as if they were something to mock. Critics argued it didn't have to be this way. Movies like Frozen showed that you can evolve the princess formula without losing the soul of the story. But Snow White 2025 didn't evolve. It discarded. Could it have been saved? Some think a more thoughtful script or less divisive lead might have changed the outcome. Others believe it was doomed the moment the story turned against its own legacy. What's clear is this: audiences are done with remakes that feel like takedowns. They want updates, sure, but not at the cost of nostalgia, warmth, or respect for the original. And they definitely don't want to be alienated by the star before the first trailer even drops. For Disney, this might be the wake-up call they didn't see coming. The days of cashing in on old titles with heavy-handed messages may be coming to an end. And for Rachel Zegler, it's a harsh reminder that words matter, especially when they push away the very people you're asking to show up. Snow White was meant to revive a legend. Instead, it became a battlefield, where a beloved classic clashed with modern controversy, and where the magic got lost in the noise. So what do you think? Could a different actress or a more faithful script have saved this? Or was it already too far gone the moment it turned its back on the story fans grew up loving? Let me know down below. And get ready. If this is the new Disney formula, expectations might need to be lowered a lot more. If this breakdown hit a nerve, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to see it, and let me know in the comments. Could this movie have been saved, or was it doomed from the start?